Welcome to the Benzino Podcast, where we're calling a spade a spade. Great to be here with you guys today. Damn! It's bad enough when you have players on the opposing team clout chasing, jealous, envious. We got a video on Angel Reese coming out later. But when it's your own coach jealous of you, when it's your own coach clout chasing off you, when it's your own coach using your moment to try her best to steal some shine, to steal the spotlight, that's when we've entered a new level of bizarro world. Now, Stephanie White.
The camera zoomed in, the sneakers glowed under the arena lights, and in that split second, the Indiana Fever locker room changed forever. It wasn't about the rookie sensation everyone came to see. It was about the woman standing on the sidelines making a statement that screamed for attention. Stephanie White didn't just walk into the arena that night. She walked into a firestorm of her own making, intentionally stepping on the biggest moment of her star player's career. The silence from the front office was deafening, but the roar from the fans was just beginning to reach a fever pitch. This wasn't just a simple fashion choice. It was a declaration of ego that nobody saw coming, until the shoes hit the floor, and the internet went into a total meltdown.
That's when we've entered a new level of bizarro world. Now, Stephanie White cried her way out of Connecticut. Boo-hooed her way out of Connecticut to tie herself to Caitlin Clark. Oh, I'm going to use Caitlin Clark as a launching pad for my broadcast career. I'm going to get my name out there. I'm going to get my clout up. I'm going to get my notoriety up. I'm not going to make this a better basketball team. I'm not going to improve the team, but I'm in it for myself. I'm selfish Stephanie White.
Caitlin Clark was supposed to be the undisputed center of the universe as she debuted the highly anticipated CC1 custom shoes, a milestone every athlete dreams of. But instead of the spotlight staying on the generational talent who is single-handedly reviving the league, the focus was aggressively shifted elsewhere by the person who is supposed to be her biggest supporter. Stephanie White decided that this was the perfect night to unveil her own custom Nike lows, complete with her name and her old jersey number prominently displayed for the world to see. It was a calculated move that left fans wondering if their head coach is more interested in coaching a winning team or building a personal brand that rivals her superstar player.
Clout tracer, Amber Cox clout chaser, but Stephanie White last night, she used Caitlin Clark's shoe reveal as a reveal of her own. Stephanie White donning the Stephanie White ones, the Stephanie White collection of her Nike shoes, a custom-made Nike low one with Stephanie White's name on it. Talk about being narcissistic. And of course, do you know what Stephanie White did before the game? Do you know what Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever did before the game? They said, hey, Stephanie White's wearing a custom.
The details on Stephanie White's shoes were a direct hit to anyone paying attention to the history of Indiana basketball. By donning the number 22 on her own custom kicks, she wasn't just wearing a shoe. She was claiming a legacy that many believe now belongs to Caitlin Clark. It felt like a bizarre attempt to remind everyone that she was Miss Indiana first, that she was the original star, and that she wasn't going to let a rookie take all the glory without a fight. This move has been described as the ultimate form of narcissism, where a coach feels the need to compete with their own player for the spotlight on a night that should have been purely about the athlete's achievement.
And of course, do you know what Stephanie White did before the game? Do you know what Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever did before the game? They said, hey, Stephanie White's wearing a custom shoe. You better make sure you guys zoom in on that shoe and talk about it. We got to get as much clout off this Caitlin Clark kid as we possibly can. And that's what the Amazon Prime broadcast did. They said, all right, now's the time to take light off of Caitlin Clark's shoe and focus in on the clout chaser, Stephanie White. Stephanie White. Speaking of clout, Stephanie White, Miss Indiana, went to Purdue.
What made the situation even more suspicious was the way the Amazon Prime broadcast handled the entire ordeal. It wasn't just a random shot of the coach's feet. It was a dedicated segment, where the announcers were clearly instructed to pivot away from Clark's shoe debut, to talk about White's custom collection. You have to ask yourself, who is pulling the strings behind the scenes, to ensure a coach gets that kind of airtime for her footwear? It felt like a coordinated effort to steal the shine from the kid who is carrying the weight of the entire league on her shoulders. The broadcast team seemed more interested in White's clout than the actual game unfolding right in front of them.
Purdue was a former player for the team, was a former coach of the team, and she never went to the Indy 500 until Caitlin Clark went to the Indy 500. You talk about riding coattails. You talk about being an opportunist. You talk about being a clout chaser. Stephanie White, she might have written the book in clout chasing. Let's get right into it, shall we? Like the video, hype the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. Caitlin Clark debuting the CC ones last night. Oh! Stephanie White said,
The allegations of clout chasing are flying fast and thick, and when you look at the timeline, it starts to look like a pattern of opportunistic behavior. Stephanie White has been accused of riding the coattails of the CC wave since the moment she arrived in Indiana. From her sudden departure from Connecticut to her newfound interest in high-profile events, the narrative is shifting. For example, critics pointed out that White never bothered to attend the Indy 500 until Caitlin Clark made it the place to be. It's as if she's using Clark as a launching pad for a future broadcast career, prioritizing her own notoriety over the development and success of the Indiana Fever as a basketball team.
Ones. Trying to upstage her own superstar. Yup, Stephanie White had custom Nikes made with her old jersey number 22 and her last name White on them during Caitlin Clark's shoe debut. Why try to upstage your own superstar on her biggest night? Stephanie Metheny can't help herself. This is narcissism and ego at the highest form, at the highest level. Jealousy at the highest level.
There's a growing sense of frustration among the fan base who believe White is acting like the main character in a story that isn't about her. Some have gone as far as to call her an egomaniac who would rather lose doing things her way than win by empowering her star player. The tension on the sidelines is becoming palpable, with observers noting that White seems to tolerate Clark while actively championing other players like Kelsey Mitchell. This perceived favoritism is creating a rift, leading many to believe that White's jealousy of Clark's unprecedented fame is clouding her professional judgment and hurting the team's chemistry during a critical point in the season.
Narcissistic abuse, manipulation, and gaslighting from Stephanie White to CC is absolutely diabolical, and CC should sue them all. CC, this is the coach that rides for you? This is the coach that rides for you? Is that what you're trying to tell us? Is that what you're trying to tell me? She rides for you? No one has your back more than this cloud chaser? Alright. She is dreading getting CC, the number 22 in the rafters, over her, Miss Indiana. Always wearing a Kelsey Mitchell for MVP shirt. Yup, I remember that. White is a passive-aggressive psycho. Nothing more pathetic than a coach past their time.
When a coach starts competing with their own player, the foundation of the team begins to crumble from within. The optics of Stephanie White wearing Frankenstein shoes that were specifically made to mirror Clark's big moment are absolutely diabolical to many onlookers. It suggests a level of passive-aggressive behavior that is rarely seen at the professional level. Fans are calling it a psychological game, a way of gaslighting the rookie into thinking she has to share her success with a coach who hasn't even proven she can win with this roster. It's a dangerous game to play when you have a generational talent who needs a leader, not a rival.
Damn, White thinks we watch for her coaching style. Seriously. How disgusting is this? I'll repeat again and again. CC may like Stephanie White, but Stephanie White loves Kelsey Mitchell and tolerates Caitlin Clark. Facts, as the kids would say. Facts. Mick talks hoop. Shout out to Mick. Steph can't go out there and start blaming reporters for speculating, then do stuff like this. The CC1 debut really had some people fighting for the spotlight. The allegations are on a generational run. Funny way of showing it. She really said, let me do.
The history between White and the Indiana Fever adds another layer of complexity to this brewing scandal. As a former player and coach for the franchise, White clearly feels a sense of ownership over the team's legacy. However, that legacy is being rewritten in real time by Clark, and it seems White isn't ready to pass the torch. The obsession with the number 22 is particularly telling. By putting that number on her shoes, White is literally trying to stand on the same ground as Clark, refusing to let the rookie have that identity all to herself. It's a move that lacks grace and shows a staggering amount of insecurity from someone in a leadership position. Social media has been a war zone since the shoe reveal, with fans dissecting every frame of the broadcast for signs of disrespect. The consensus among the Caitlin Clark stans is that White has officially crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. They see a coach who is more focused on her own custom Nike collection than on the defensive rotations that are costing the team games. The term narcissistic abuse has even been tossed around by the most vocal critics, who believe Clark is being stifled by a coach who views her as a threat to her own legendary status in Indiana. It's a toxic environment that is starting to boil over into the public eye. Some insiders suggest that White's boo-hooing her way out of Connecticut was all part of a larger plan to tie herself to the most marketable athlete in the world. By positioning herself as the coach who molded Caitlin Clark, White could potentially secure a massive contract in broadcasting or a more high-profile front office role. But the plan seems to be backfiring, as the public sees through the cloud-chasing tactics. Instead of being viewed as a mentor, she's being viewed as an opportunist who is willing to sabotage her own player's special night just to get a few minutes of talk time on a national television broadcast. The irony of the situation is that while White is focusing on her footwear, the team is struggling to find its rhythm on the court. Critics argue that a coach should be obsessed with game film and player development, not shoe designs and media mentions. The fact that she had these shoes Frankenstein together specifically for this night shows where her priorities truly lie. It takes effort and planning to coordinate a custom shoe reveal with a major broadcast. That energy could have been spent on finding ways to protect Clark on defense or creating a system that actually utilizes her unique skill set effectively. The disrespect didn't stop at the shoes. It extended to the way the game was called and the lack of protection Clark received on the court. While the coach was busy showing off her custom Nikes, her star player was being hounded and harassed by the opposing defense with very little adjustment from the bench. It's a recurring theme that has fans screaming for a coaching change. They want a leader who will go to bat for their players, not one who is competing with them for the spotlight. Every time White leans into her own celebrity, it feels like a slap in the face to the fans who are paying to see a basketball revolution. Stephanie White's reaction to the accusations has been one of calculated silence, which many interpret as a sign of her snapping under the pressure of the narrative. She knows the eyes of the world are on her and she's choosing to double down on her "I'm the legend here" persona. This passive-aggressive stance is only fueling the fire. Instead of addressing the perceived tension or making a public statement to support Clark's milestone, she continues to move as if she is the star of the show. It's a dangerous path to take when your job security is ultimately tied to the happiness and success of the player you are supposedly disrespecting. There are even whispers that Clark's camp is far from happy with the way things are unfolding in Indiana. Imagine being the biggest draw in sports and having to deal with a coach who is trying to upstage you at every turn. It's a level of DMN-right unprofessionalism that could eventually lead to a trade request or a complete breakdown in team morale. The CC1 debut should have been a moment of pure celebration for the organization, a sign of the bright future ahead. Instead, it will be remembered as the night the coach decided to make it all about herself and her old jersey number. The narrative of the Miss Indiana legacy is being used as a shield by White supporters, but it's a shield that is wearing thin. Being a local legend doesn't give you a pass to be a cloud chaser at the expense of your current roster. The game has changed and the level of fame Clark brings is something White never experienced during her playing days. It seems she's having a hard time adjusting to the fact that she is no longer the most important person in the room. The custom shoes were a desperate attempt to reclaim some of that lost territory, but all they did was expose her insecurities to a global audience. Looking closely at the broadcast again, the timing of the shoe segment was almost too perfect to be accidental. It happened right as the buzz around Clark's kicks was reaching its peak. To pivot the conversation to the coach's Stephanie White ones felt like a direct attempt to dilute Clark's marketing power. If the coach is working with the media to boost her own brand during her players' biggest moments, that is a massive conflict of interest. It's the kind of behavior that makes you wonder if there is any trust left in that locker room or if everyone is just looking out for their own personal gain. The comments from fans are getting more and more heated, with many calling White a total clown and an asshat for her behavior. They point out that nobody is watching the Indiana Fever to see the coach's fashion choices. They are there for the generational talent that is Clark. For White to think that her custom shoes are a topic of interest during a game is a sign of how out of touch she has become with the reality of the situation. She is a supporting character in this story, but she is acting like she's the one selling out the arenas and driving the record-breaking television ratings. The comparison between the two players' impacts is night and day, and that reality seems to be what is causing White to snap. While White was a solid player in her time, Clark is a cultural phenomenon. Trying to bridge that gap with a pair of custom shoes and some cleverly timed media segments is not only futile, but also deeply embarrassing. It shows a lack of self-awareness that is startling for a professional coach. Instead of embracing the role of the mentor who helped the star reach new heights, she is choosing to be the rival who tries to steal the spotlight at the finish line. The internal politics of the Fever are likely a mess right now, with players forced to choose sides between a legendary coach and a superstar rookie. This kind of division is exactly what kills championship potential before it even has a chance to grow. If White continues to prioritize her clout over the team's cohesion, the Indiana Fever will remain a middle-of-the-pack team despite having the best prospect in a decade. The fans are calling for accountability, demanding that the organization step in and remind the coach that her job is to lead the team, not to model custom footwear on national television. As the season progresses, every move Stephanie White makes will be under a microscope. The shoe scandal has opened the Pandora's box of criticism that won't be easily closed. Whether it's her coaching decisions, her media appearances, or her sideline attire, the cloud-chasing label is going to stick until she proves otherwise. The pressure is on her to show that she can be a selfless leader who puts her players first. But if her past behavior is any indication, she might just continue to snap at anyone who suggests she isn't the most important person in the Indiana basketball world. There is a fine line between personal branding and professional disrespect. And most people believe White crossed it in spectacular fashion. The CC1 debut was a once-in-a-lifetime event that was tainted by a coach's need for validation. It's a sad state of affairs when a coach feels the need to have shoes Frankenstein just to keep up with a 22-year-old. This isn't just about sneakers. It's about the ego, the power dynamics, and the future of a franchise that is currently being held hostage by a coach who can't handle being in the shadow of a true superstar. The fallout from this event is only just beginning. We are seeing a shift in how the media and the fans view the Indiana coaching staff. The trust is gone, replaced by a deep suspicion of White's motives. Every time she speaks to a reporter or makes a coaching change, people will be looking for the hidden agenda. Is she doing this for the team, or is she doing it to boost her own profile? The answer seems clearer than ever after the custom shoe stunt. Stephanie White has shown her true colors, and they aren't the colors of a coach who is dedicated to her players' ultimate success. In the end, the game of basketball always reveals the truth. You can wear the custom shoes, you can manipulate the broadcast, and you can try to steal the spotlight, but the results on the court and the loyalty of the fans cannot be faked. Caitlin Clark is the future of this sport, and any coach who tries to stand in the way of that or use it for their own gain will eventually be left behind. Stephanie White needs to realize that her legacy will be defined not by her own shoes, but by how she treated the greatest player to ever wear the Indiana jersey. Right now, that legacy is looking incredibly tarnished.